So we started lying down on our backs with your feet flat on the mat and your knees bent. And I had suggested that you have your feet a little wider than hips distance, maybe like the width of your mat if you're using a yoga mat, and then have your knees knocked in towards one another. And I also want your heels to be a little further forward from your knees, so not directly under your knees, just to give you more space. You might see a cat come in and out because she likes to do yoga too. And then your spine will be long. You can just rest your hands on your pelvis, maybe down by your sides. If your arms are down by your sides, maybe see about scooching the shoulders just underneath you a little bit, like opening the chest so that the palms can face up. Or you can rest your hands on your low belly. And if you do that, just see that the elbows are pretty far out to the sides, just so you can feel a broadening in your chest. Allow that broadening to move through the back body as well. You can bring your eyes to close and just take a couple of minutes to kind of get centered here. And as you get centered or find stillness here, just bring your awareness to your breath. And let the breath relax anything in the body that does not need to be working right now. So in this position, you can pretty much relax everything. So relax the muscles in your face. You can move down, relax the muscles in your shoulders and your chest and your upper back. The muscles in your belly, your side waist, and your mid back. And down to your low belly, your pelvis, your hips, and your low back. So allowing the breath to kind of help you find relaxation in those areas. And if you'd like, you can start to bring like an ujjayi breath to your practice. That means, translates to victorious breath. And that breath starts from the base of your throat and comes in and out through your nose. It's a similar breath that you would use to fog up a pair of glasses, but your mouth is closed. From here, you can bring your feet a little closer to one another and have your knees about hips distance apart. Just hug your right knee in towards your chest. Extend your left leg out onto the mat. So I'll try to do what we did. I'm not going to remember exactly everything that we did, but the gist was to find low back relief. So we're just going to go through those kinds of exercises. So as you hug the right knee in, extend your left leg out and reach through that heel. And I want the back of the pelvis to be even on the mat and rooted. And I also want that left heel to be rooted and for the left femur to feel pretty heavy as well. So if it feels like you can't quite straighten that left leg or the heel is floating up in space, just keep the left foot flat on the mat and the knee bent the way that it was. If not, you'll extend through that heel as you draw the right knee in. Try to infuse breath into every movement. So as you bring that knee in and extend the left heel out, just breathe. And then switch sides. So bring the left knee in, extend through the right heel. And again, reach through that right heel, and if it feels like the leg is floating up in space or it's just hard for whatever reason to extend that leg as you draw the left knee in, just keep the foot flat on the mat with the knee bent. And if you are flexing through that right heel, can you think of drawing the inner thigh towards the earth? That like inward rotation a little bit is going to create a little more space for your low back. Also, make sure that the crown of the head is drawing straight back behind you, like you're tucking the chin in towards your chest just a little bit. And then hug both knees into your chest. And as you hug both knees in, something that I mentioned as well is like sometimes there's a tendency when we hug the knees in for the low back to lift way off the earth. So release the legs a little bit if it allows your spine to remain nice and long on the mat. So you don't have to like hug the knees all the way into your forehead. Then if it feels good for your low back, this is a nice place to kind of rock side to side. You can kind of assess where your low back is at here. You can even take like little circles on the low back. And switch the direction of your circles if you did that. And then find stillness. Then bring both feet flat on the mat again. And have your heels again a little further forward of your knees so that there's kind of a right angle between your thighs and your shins. Your feet are roughly hips distance, and that really just means frontal hip distance, not outer hips. So it's a little more narrow than you might think. I want your knees to stay hips distance as well. Bring your hands onto your low belly or your pelvis, like you're grabbing onto your pelvis. We're going to do a couple of those pelvic tilts. So these are really nice to warm up your low back and just to assess like that action that's so helpful with a lot of other movements that we do. So on an inhale, I want you to tilt your pelvis forward and your hips stay down, but it's like I could scooch a hand underneath your low back. And on an exhale, lift your low belly and lengthen your back so it's like low back is flat on the mat. Inhale, draw the pelvis forward, like tilting it forward, create that space, and exhale, flatten the back. So you're arching and like almost tucking a little bit. So inhale, arch the low back, and exhale, flatten the low back. And do that 2 more times, seeing that the knees stay like pointing straight forward. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, and exhale. And then find a neutral position for your low back. So it's like a marriage of those 2 actions. So it's not arching and it's not flattening, it's just somewhere in between. And keeping that where it is, bring your hands behind your head, interlace your hands behind the skull. And I want you, for these crunches that we're going to do, to keep the space for the front of your throat. That means that your face and your chest are going to go up to the ceiling rather than forward towards your knees. So on an exhale, lift head and chest. And inhale, bring it back down. Exhale to lift. Inhale, bring it back down. And take your time, trying to get the whole shoulder blade off the mat. Exhale, lift. Inhale, bring it down. Keep your knees hips distance. Exhale, lift. Inhale, bring it down. Exhale, lift. Inhale, bring it down. Just keep going like that with your breath. From wherever you are, take 5 more. And once you're done with your 5, you can release your arms down by your sides. We'll do just a brief bridge pose to release that belly work that we just did. So walk your feet in towards your hips a little bit so that your heels pretty much line up underneath your knees. Arms down by your sides. And on an inhale, lift your hips up towards the ceiling. Just a little bridge pose, so not a lot of movement here, just enough to lift the hips up. Any amount that feels okay for your low back. As you root down through the heels, your inner thighs draw down, and your knees stay hips distance. And then on an exhale, just gently release that down. Hug your knees towards your chest again, and start to rock back and forth on your spine. So from like the upper back to the low back, just a couple of times to bring yourself up to a seat. And you'll have crossed legs. So this is where we gave some options of you can like sit up with crossed shins. You can do like kind of like a sort of half lotus thing. You can sit on your shins, although that created a bit of a cramp last time if I remember. So so whatever feels comfortable to just sit for a couple of moments. And if you have a prop at home, like a pillow or something, and it feels really strenuous to sit in this kind of position for your thighs, then give yourself that height with something underneath your seat. That might help a lot. So if the shins are crossed, or if you're sitting on your shins, go ahead and cross the shins similar to how I am, and we'll actually do it more simply. So let's start with the right shin crossed in front of the left. And sit up tall on your sit bones. And lengthen up through the spine, through the crown of your head, and come back to your breath. From here, release the arms down by your sides, and on an inhale, extend the arms up towards the ceiling. And as you extend the arms up, there's sometimes a tendency for the front ribs to puff out. Can you bring them into the body a little bit? Can you isolate that like dropping down of the ribs, just a slight lift in your chest? Maybe you lift the gaze up a little bit. Get long through the front body, through the back body, through the sides of the body. And then on an exhale, just forward fold over your legs. And just release everything down as much as you can as you forward fold. And if it feels good to like walk your hands a little bit side to side, you can do that. So with the right shin crossed in front of the left, it might feel nice to walk the hands towards the left. And if you want to experiment with how it feels to walk the hands towards the right. And bring it back to center again and just forward fold. And walk your hands back towards your shins. And switch the crossing of your shins. So left shin in front of the right. And you're trying to cross at the center of your shin. And again, give yourself height underneath your seat if it feels like the knees are way up high, or if it feels like your frontal hip flexors are biting a little bit. Giving yourself that height will just make the spine longer and your hips will be a little happier as well. And so you're sitting up tall. I want you to sit on your sit bones rather than your tailbone. So that's another indication if it's difficult to sit on your sit bones that maybe you need some height. Sitting up tall. And then bring the arms down by your sides. Extend the arms up. Remember, get long through the front body, side body, back body. Maybe lift the gaze a little bit. And on an exhale, forward fold over your legs. with the left shin crossed in front of the right, maybe walk the hands towards the right and see if that adds a little bit. And then you can walk the hands towards the left and see what that does. And bring it back to center and just forward fold. Try and release everything down. And walk your hands back. And just last thing that we'll do is just some side stretches. You can keep the legs as they are. Extend the arms up. And drop your right hand down, reach up further with the left hand, then reach up and over for a side stretch. So trying to stay evenly rooted through your sit bones. This is another area where the ribs tend to like puff out. So can you bring the ribs in? And press down through the right hand to lift up, extend both arms up. And bring the left hand down, reach up and over. Sit bones root down. And then bring it back up. And you'll make your way onto hands and knees. And as you come onto hands and knees, see that your wrists are underneath your shoulders. And your hands can turn out ever so slightly. That'll give your shoulders a little more space. And your knees are about hips distance, and your knees are underneath your hips. And then on an inhale, I want you to reach the heart forward for a cow pose, belly towards the earth. And exhale, round the spine, arch the spine, root down through the hands to feel that stretch between the shoulder blades. Inhale, draw the chest forward. Exhale, round. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, round. Two more like that. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And find a neutral position in your spine. So again, there's like that little marriage between those two things. There's like a little lift of your chest and a little lift of your belly. Bring the knees a little closer to one another. Then extend your right leg back behind you. Have all 5 toes curl under to start. And your frontal hip points are facing towards the earth. The inner thigh draws up on that extended leg. Your low belly lifts up towards your spine. Root down through the right hand, root down through the left knee, and then extend your left arm forward, just to the height of your shoulder. Palm faces in, pinky edge faces down. From the inner thigh, lift your right leg up, just to the height of your hip. So you're not going for height, you're going for length. Reach in both directions. Reach back through the heel, reach forward through the fingertips. Keep lifting through your low belly. And on an exhale, bring the hand down and the shin down. Extend left leg back behind you. All 5 toes curl under to start. Inner thigh draws up. Low belly lifts. Hug the right hip in. Root down through the left hand. Root through the right knee. And extend your right arm forward. Palm faces in. Pinky edge faces down. And then again, lifting from your inner thigh. Lift that left leg up just to the height of your hip. It doesn't go very high at all. Lift low belly. Reach in both directions like someone's pulling you in opposite directions. Keep hugging the right hip in though. And exhale, bring the hand down and the shin down. Let's connect that with the breath. Inhale, right leg, left arm, reach. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, right arm, left leg, reach. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, right leg, left arm, reach. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, right arm, left leg. Exhale, bring it down. Let's do 2 more on each side. Inhale, right leg. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, left leg, right arm. Exhale, bring it down. Last time each side. Inhale. And exhale. Inhale and exhale. And then bring your knees a little wider than your hips, big toes touch, and take a child's pose. So your knees are a little wider than your hips so that your torso can kind of rest between your thighs more or less. That's going to give your spine a little bit more length. When your big toes are touching one another, your hips are pretty heavy towards your heels and you're resting your head down on the earth. And see if you can relax everything here. So relax the arms, neck, face, everything down. And then start to make this an active child's pose. That means that you straighten through the arms and you start to reach your fingertips forward, but don't reach from your shoulder socket. So the shoulders still plug back. And your arms are straightening. And again, the hands are a little turned out. Forearms lift off the mat. And take your hips away from your heels, curl your toes under, and take a downward facing dog. So the length that you had between your hands and feet, finding the length from child's pose to down dog, is usually the length that you want in downward facing dog. So don't be afraid to make this long. Don't be afraid that your heels don't touch the earth. I want to go for length in your spine. So something that will help here is bend your knees a little bit, and that pelvic tilt that we were doing, think about doing that right now, right here. Can you create the natural curve of your low back? As you try to create that curve of your low back, see that the ribs plug back into the spine a little bit so you're not puffing the ribs out. And then you can bend one knee at a time, like straighten the opposite leg, then switch sides, bend the opposite knee. And then bend both knees again, and then maybe you start to straighten both legs at the same time, but really not making that a priority. If you want to keep the legs bent, heels far away from the earth, if that's what's going to find length in your spine, that's what this pose is about. So really not prioritizing heels or legs. And from here, shift forward to plank pose, top of a push-up. So as you shift forward, I want your shoulders over your wrists. And again, plank is on your hands. When we say plank in the yoga world, it typically means that you're on your hands and your feet. And I want your heels to reach back as your chest gently draws forward, and lengthen your stance as much as you need so the shoulders are over the wrists. Root down through the whole circumference of each hand. Inner thighs draw up towards the sky. Lengthen your tailbone towards your heels. If you want to drop the knees, you can. Let's do some chaturanga push-ups. So on an exhale, I want you to shift forward to your tippy toes. Bend at the elbows, lower them by your sides. Bend and come hovering so your shoulders are the same height as your elbows. Inhale, press yourself back up to plank. And exhale, downward facing dog. And do that 2 more times. Inhale, shift forward, shoulders over your wrists. Exhale, shift more forward, bend at the elbows. Keep the elbows by your sides though. Lower shoulders to the height of the elbows. Inhale, press yourself back up. Exhale, downward facing dog. So I don't think we did this the other day on the deck, but good exercise to do. Inhale, shift forward to plank. Exhale, lower down just to the height of your elbows. Inhale, press yourself back up. And exhale, downward facing dog. And on an inhale, shift forward to plank pose again. Exhale, lower down, chaturanga. Hover for an extra breath. Elbows same height as your shoulders. On another exhale, lower all the way down to the mat. You can rest your arms down by your sides for a moment and just take a moment. You can gaze to one side, rest your cheek to one side. Just let everything go here. And turn your head to the opposite side, just so you even out the neck. And then bring your forehead onto the mat, tucking your chin in towards your chest. And actually, let's come to Sphinx pose. We did this together. So come to Sphinx pose. That means you're on your forearms. Your forearms are parallel to one another. Your elbows are underneath your shoulders. You're rooting down through each hand. There can be an action of not only dragging the forearms back a little bit to draw the chest forward, but can there almost be an action of like trying to draw the elbows a little closer together? And that's gonna like create the upper arms trying to wrap back to open the chest up a little bit more. And then counter that a little bit by lifting your low belly, almost like you want to lift it off the earth. And then we are going to lift it off the earth. So on an exhale, I want you to start gazing down at your belly button. Lift everything up except for the tops of your feet and your forearms. You're staying on the tops of your feet. Inhale, bring it back down. Do that a couple more times, just some low belly work. Exhale to lift. Inhale, bring it back down. A couple more times. Exhale, lift. Inhale, bring it back down. 2 more. Exhale, lift. Inhale, bring it down. Last time. Exhale, lift. And inhale, bring it back down. And bring your forehead to the mat. Walk your hands back. See that your wrists are underneath your elbows, more or less. You're still on the tops of your feet. And your feet are hips distant and your legs are active. When you think of drawing the inner thighs up towards the sky, think of lifting the low belly just a little bit. Can you hug the outer ankles in a little bit? On an inhale, peel head and chest for low cobra. So you're lifting head and chest, elbows back, shoulders back. Exhale, bring it back down. Inhale, peel head and chest, low cobra. Back of the neck stays long. Exhale, bring it down. Inhale, peel head and chest. And exhale, bring it down. Inhale, peel head and chest. And exhale, bring it down. Inhale, peel head and chest and hold. Elbows back, shoulders back. You're not using your hands hardly at all. You can even lift them up for a moment and see that your back, your chest is lifted the same amount. And you can bring the hands down. And on an exhale, bring it down. If you want to try upward facing dog where that's in your practice, you have the option to do that now. Your wrists are underneath your elbows. You can double check that. On an inhale, peel head and chest, low cobra. Choose to stay here or straighten the arms and come just to the tops of your feet and your hands. Root down evenly through the whole circumference of each hand. Straighten through those arms. Lift the chest. Inner thighs draw up towards the sky. Can you think of lifting your belly towards your chest? Chest lifts up, maybe gaze lifts. Low belly lifts you up and back to downward facing dog. On an inhale, lift your right leg up towards the ceiling, reaching from your inner thigh. On a deep exhale, step that foot between the hands. So if you have to walk it up there, move it up there with the hand, do what you got to do so that it gets between the hands. Then drop the back knee down. And as I drop the back knee down, I'm like moving that knee back. So that I'm like high up the knee towards the thigh as much as possible as it comes down. If you need to give yourself some extra padding under that knee, you can flip your mat, you can bring your blanket underneath your knee, do what you got to do. The heel is underneath the knee on that front leg. Root down through that front heel. As you feel ready, you can bring your hands to your thigh. As you bring the hands to the thigh, think of pressing that thigh away from you to lift your low belly. There's that pelvic tilt again. So rather than tilting it forward like we were doing, we're trying to bring it upright. Think of that pelvis like a bowl of water. We're not tilting it forward right now. We're trying to keep it level. Lengthen the tailbone towards that back knee. With all of this work happening, maybe you bend a little deeper in that front knee. And keep breathing. Breathe into that frontal hip flexor. So that's where I want you to feel this, is in that frontal hip. And if you feel stable, rooting down through that front heel, extend the arms up towards the ceiling. Keep rooting down to lift up through the chest. Maybe you come into a little back bend, but don't let it come into the low back, just the upper back. Maybe you gaze up, maybe you see the palms press up above you. On an exhale, bring the hands down. Curl your back toes under and straighten through that back leg. Step it back to plank and lift it up and back to downward facing dog. On an inhale, lift your left leg up towards the ceiling, lifting from your inner thigh. On a deep exhale, bring that knee to the nose and then step it between the hands as gracefully as you can. Bring the back knee down to the earth. And again, try to move that knee back and then down. The heel stays under the knee on that front leg. Give yourself padding underneath that back knee if you need it. And already here, think of lifting your low belly towards your spine. And then bring yourself upright, bringing the hands onto the thigh. As you make contact with the thigh, lift the low belly. Almost like you want to create space between the crease of your hip, like in the crease of your hip, by lifting low belly. And with all that length that you find, you can just isolate the action in the leg by just bending the knee a little deeper. Notice if one side is tighter than the other. It's very common. If you feel stable, root down through the feet and lift the arms up. As you come into that little back bend, just remember it's going up and then back. And as you come into that back bend in the upper back, keep lifting the low belly so you don't overdo it in the low back. And gaze up, perhaps maybe see the palms press. On an exhale, bring the hands down, curl the back toes under, straighten through that front leg, step it back to plank, and then up and back to downward facing dog. From here, walk your hands back towards your feet and hang in a forward fold. And as you hang in a forward fold, your feet are parallel to one another and they're about hips distance. So again, hips distance implies frontal hips. That means really, if you put two fists down between your feet, that's usually this distance of your hips. So it might be a more narrow than you think. As you root down evenly through your feet, can you think of your big toes moving away from the rest of your toes? Feel the inner arches lift when you do that, so you feel like a gecko, like your feet are really intentionally like rooted down, but there's no tension in your toes. And you can take a deep bend in your knees so that you drape your torso over your thighs. That's going to make these forward folds way more gentle on your low back, especially if you have low back stuff. Always just bend your knees for anything where you're forward folding. Interlace your hands behind your head. As you interlace your hands behind your head, you don't have to do a lot to feel this, so just let the weight of your hands on the back of your head just do all the work. And then release the hands down. On an inhale, come up halfway to a long spine. So when we say halfway, just bring yourself as high up as you need to go so that your spine feels long. We've been doing a lot of work on that pelvic tilt stuff. You should have a good idea of what a long spine is, even if you don't have a mirror next to you. So for me, my hands are on my shins, and that's where I'm at so that my spine feels long. If it's available to have your hands on the earth, then fine. I feel like for most of us, hands on shins or thighs is probably preferable. If your hands are on your legs, don't push them back. Your hands are very light wherever they are. On an exhale, with all that length that you found, forward fold over the legs again. Root down through the feet, reach from your chest, circle the arms up, come up to stand. And on an exhale, bring your hands to your heart. Oh, and I'm a little cut off, but that's okay. You don't have to see my face. So walk forward to the front edge of your mat or your space, wherever you are. And again, feet hips distance or all the way together. And if you choose to have them all the way together, See that you have a little split between your heels. That's going to encourage the inner thighs to draw back. So do that action with the feet hips distance or together. Inner thighs draw back. And to counter that little pop of your booty that just happened because the inner thighs drew back, lengthen your tailbone down. That little lift of the low belly. So these things together create a lot of space in your low back, strength in your core to support your back. Let's do a couple of sun salutations. Inhale, circle the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Even roots in the feet, bend through the knees. Inhale, come up halfway, heart draws forward. Exhale, root the hands and step it back to plank pose. Inhale here. Exhale, lower down, chaturanga, that push-up thing that we did. Inhale, low cobra or back bend. We've been here before. Exhale, low belly lifts you up and back, downward facing dog. And at the bottom of your next exhale, gaze between your hands. Step the right foot forward, followed by your left. Feet together or hips distance. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, full little bend in the knees. Inhale, circle the arms up, come up to stand. And exhale, hands to your heart. Inhale, root through the feet, circle the arms up. Exhale, even roots in the feet as you forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, step it back to plank pose. Inhale there. Exhale, lower down. Back bend of your choice. And exhale, downward facing dog. And at the bottom of your next exhale, gaze between the hands. Step the left foot forward, followed by your right. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, forward fold. Root through the feet, circle the arms up, come up to stand, and exhale, hands to your heart. Let's do that again. Circle the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, root the hands, step it back. Same exhale lowers you down, chaturanga if possible. Inhale, back bend of your choice. Exhale, downward facing dog. From here, inhale your right leg up towards the ceiling. On an exhale, step it through between the hands. Spin the back heel to the mat, please. So you're spinning the back heel to the mat, toes angle forward just a little bit. And you're keeping like a right angle in that front leg, so you're trying to keep the knee over the ankle. Keep drawing the right hip back. Root down through that front heel. You're heel to heel in one line, maybe even a little wider coming off the tightrope. Back leg is nice and strong. Once you feel stable, root down through that right heel and bring the arms up to warrior one. So warrior one is where you're facing the front of your space. You're trying to square everything towards the front as you root down through that back foot. So think of lifting the inner arch of that back foot, and think of what we did earlier of like moving the big toe away from the rest of your toes. Try to draw the right hip back. And for a moment, you can bring the hands down, straighten a little bit through that front leg to try to square the hips towards the front more. And then once you find that, it's not going to completely square. The chest can square, the rib cage can square pretty much. With the left hip, it's not going to square completely, but you're moving towards that. Maintaining that, take a little bend in that front leg again. See if you can bring more weight into the heel than the rest of your foot. Extend those arms up again. Extend the left arm forward, like coming into almost like a twist towards the right. Like drawing the left fingertips forward, maybe descending a little lower through that front knee. Lengthen the low back down. And extend that left arm up again. On an inhale, maybe a little back bend, gaze up, maybe palms press. Exhale, bring the hands down, step it back to plank. Exhale, lower down, chaturanga. Inhale, back bend. Exhale, down dog. Inhale, left leg lifts up towards the ceiling. Deep exhale, step that foot between the hands. Back heel spins to the mat. Heel to heel in one line. Really wrap the outer edge of that back foot towards the earth. Like trying to lift the inner arch of that back foot. Already draw that left hip back. Get low through that left hamstring, knee over the ankle. Back leg nice and firm. Root down through that front heel, bring yourself up to warrior one. Trying to square everything towards the front. Weight is a little more through the front heel. And then for a moment, you can bring your hands onto your hips and take a bend out of that front leg just a little bit, gives it a little bit of a break. Also allows you to feel like that trying to square towards the front with your pelvis. And once you feel that, those back toes are calm, they're collected, they're not freaking out, but the inner arch is lifting. And extend the arms up and take that bend back into that front leg. And bend as deeply as your back foot allows, right? So priority is your foundation. If the foundation is messed up, then the rest of the house is going to collapse. So prioritize what's in contact with the earth and then build from there. Extend your right arm forward. Allow that to kind of start from the outer right hip. Keep lifting your low belly towards your spine. And extend that right arm up, putting all together. Maybe bend a little deeper in that front leg. Maybe start to lift your chest up. Maybe lift your gaze. Maybe see the palms press. On an exhale, bring the hands down. Step it back to plank. Lower down chaturanga. Back bend of your choice. Exhale, down dog. And at the bottom of your next exhale, come up high into your tippy toes. Bend your knees deeply, step or lightly hop to that space between your hands. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Bend your knees, reach through the arms, Utkatasana. So this is chair pose. Let's hold here for a breath. You see all 10 toes down beneath. That means your weight is in the heels. You're moving your shins back. Low belly lifts. Get long through the sides of the body, front body, back body, ribs in, and root through the feet. Come up, and hands to your heart. Let's do some dynamic chair. On an inhale, bend the knees, reach through the arms. And exhale, bring the arms down, straighten through the legs. Inhale, bend the knees, reach through the arms, Utkatasana. And exhale, straighten. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, bend. And exhale, straighten. And this last one, we're just going to continue with the sun salutation. So inhale, bend the knees. Exhale, forward fold, then straighten through your legs. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, step it back. Same exhale lowers you down, chaturanga. Back bend on the inhale. Exhale, down dog. Inhale, right leg lifts. Exhale, step that foot between the hands. Back heel spins to the mat, heel to heel alignment. Inhale, warrior one, just for one breath. Exhale, bring it down, move through your vinyasa to downward facing dog. That's chaturanga, that push up down. Back bend on the inhale. Exhale, down dog. Inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, step it through. Back heel spins to the mat. Inhale, one breath lifts you all the way up. It's fast, but take your time. Exhale, bring it down. Same exhale moves you through chaturanga if possible. Back bend on the inhale. Exhale, down dog. And at the bottom of your next exhale, come up high into your tippy toes. Bend your knees, gaze between the hands, and step or lightly hop to that front edge of your mat. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Root through the feet, bend the knees, reach through the arms, Utkatasana, chair pose. And exhale, straighten the legs, hands to your heart. This builds a lot of heat, and they're meant to be difficult ish for life, which means that no matter how advanced you are, it'll build heat and make you break a sweat. Like I'm sweating right now. These are always going to be hard, and that's what's awesome about them. Let's do one more. Bend the knees, reach through the arms, Utkatasana. Exhale, forward fold, straighten through the legs. Inhale, come up halfway, draw the chest forward. Keep that chest drawing forward as you step it back to plank pose. Lower down, chaturanga. Back bend on the inhale. Exhale, down dog. Right leg lifts on the inhale. Exhale, step it between the hands, back heel spins to the mat. Just one breath lifts you all the way up. And exhale, bring it down. Move through your vinyasa to downward facing dog. From down dog, left leg lifts. Exhale, step it through. Back heel to the mat. Inhale, one breath lifts you up. It's intentional, even though it's fast. Exhale, bring it down. Move through your vinyasa to down dog. You modify as needed. Take breaks as needed. We'll meet in down dog for a couple of breaths. And at the bottom of your next exhale, gaze between the hands. Step or lightly hop to that space. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees, reach through the arms, Utkatasana. And exhale, straighten the legs. And bring your hands to your heart. All right. Working you hard. Okay, so something that we didn't do together that I will do with you now, which is also really nice to do for your low back, is some external postures. So come to the side, like face the side of your space, and then have your feet about 3 feet apart. We're just going to do a triangle pose on each side, so it's not a hugely demanding posture. It's effective. And something that might be nice is I have these fancy blocks here, but if you don't have a block, which you probably don't because you're a normal person, you could use like a book. I can show what that would look like. I have like a book here, so you'll have a book handy, and I'll demo it with a book in case that's what you're working with. And just keep the book in your hand for right now. Have like a thick book. This is my Hendrix biography. So something that's not too heavy, so you can like work with it, because you're going to start with your arms out to the sides, and have your book in your right hand. Okay. Then turn from deep within the right hip socket. I'm not mirroring you now, but I'm going to do my right leg. Turn the right leg out to 90 degrees. Angle the left toes in a little bit. So have the front, that right heel in line with your back arch. So heel to arch now, rather than heel to heel, heel to arch. Arms out to the sides. And I want you to draw the left hip back and reach through the right fingertips. So hopefully that book that you're holding is not too heavy. And reach, 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 reach. And really like someone just karate chopped you right at that hip crease. And then you bring the book down on the outside of your heel. And that's your prop. Extend your left arm up. Kneecaps are lifting on both of those thighs. Keep drawing the right hip back. So this prop, like yes, I can touch the floor, but what I'm trying to do is lengthen both sides of my body evenly, and that's why some height might be nice so that I can do that. And again, your ribs aren't puffing out, you're coming in. So side to side, it's almost like you're between two panes of glass. So you're not puffing out, you're not tilting forward. Keep trying to draw that right hip back. And this is it, triangle pose. And as you draw that right hip back, can you root down through the big right toe mound? Then root down through the feet, bring yourself up, and parallel your feet, bring that book into the opposite hand, extend your arms out to the sides. And then from deep within your left hip socket, turn the left leg out. So it's almost like my hips want to like square towards the left now. You're angling those right toes forward. My chest is going to stay nice and open to the sides. This is what we mean by external. Your hips are doing one thing and your torso is doing something else. Whereas in Warrior One, your torso is trying to do the same thing as your hips. These external postures, Trikonasana, Warrior Two, They require like different planes happening at the same time. So heel to arch alignment. Arms out to the side. You can already start rooting down through the big toe mound of that left foot. And like someone just karate chopped you right at the hip crease. You're drawing that left hip back. You're reaching through the left fingertips. And I really like, this is the posture right here. This, like if you took like a freeze frame of this is what your body wants to do, because then once I really can't reach anymore, I bring the hand down and my torso has barely changed at all. So again, you're not trying to reach down, like this is something, it's not what we're trying to do though. I want you to think of lengthening through both sides of your waist at the same time. I learned how to do this pose correctly when I was on a pilgrimage and I was walking like a lot, like 18 miles a day. My low back started to hurt a lot because I had a lot of weight on my back. And rather than like touching the floor on the, on the inside of my foot, which is like, I was like, oh, this is what it's supposed to be. Is hand on the outside, maybe supported on something. It can be on your shin, but it's better to have it on a block so you don't bear weight on your leg. And this way, my spine is nice and long. Lengthen your tail down. And root down through the feet, reach up through that top arm and come out. Parallel your feet. You can move that book off to the side. Probably not going to use it again unless you want to read it later. Bring your hands to your hips. Then heel toe the feet back together. All right, so that's plenty. We're going to start to bring ourselves down and kind of find the conclusion to this. So step to the front edge of your space again. Feet hips distance are all the way together. Bring your hands to your heart. Inhale, circle the arms up. Doesn't this feel different? Exhale, forward fold. Maybe a little bend in your knees. Inhale, come up halfway. Exhale, root your hands, step it back. Last vinyasa, lower down chaturanga. Back bend on the inhale. Then exhale, downward facing dog. And then come onto all fours and make your way onto your back, please. And actually, if that book isn't too thick, like if it's like 1.5 inches or something, and you find that when you're lying down, your chin tilts up a lot, like a lot of men tend to have this thing where their shoulders might be big or just their upper back is just a little large, so that their chin is kind of tilting up because there's a lot of space. There's a lot of like padding underneath their shoulder blades. So if that's your reality and it's hard to lengthen your crown of the head back, it could be beneficial to have just a little bit of support underneath the head. So that's not everyone's reality, but if it's your thing where you're finding that your chin tilts up a little bit, then give yourself a little bit of height underneath the head. So same thing that we did near the beginning, your heels are going to be underneath your knees. Arms down by your sides. And this is bridge pose. So inhale, bring the hips up. Root down through the heels, inner thighs draw down. Then you'll scooch the flesh of your shoulders under the body, not away from your ears, just under. And then bring the pinky edges of your hand to like karate chop the earth, like you're holding a beach ball behind you. Use the pressure of your hands in the earth to lift your chest up higher. Low belly lifts. And create that space for the front of your neck. So you're not tucking your chin in towards your chest too much. You want to maintain the curve of the back of your neck. Can you relax your sitting muscles? And on an exhale, release and bring it back down to the earth. And take a moment. So again, your heels are underneath your knees. So there's an instruction that happens a lot in the yoga world of like, try to reach for the backs of your heels. I'm gonna say that we're just not gonna do that, because you can risk like flattening your neck a little bit if you like reach with your hands a lot, and it just makes it just kind of weird. So just gaze down, kind of peek with your eyeballs and see that your heels are underneath your knees pretty much. Arms down by your sides, palms face down, and lift the hips up any amount. It doesn't have to be a huge amount. Keep lifting your low belly. Knees stay hips distance. This is another thing that I see a lot, is knees are splayed out to the sides. I want your knees to stay hips distance. If someone's picking you up by the sides of your pants, then scooch the flesh of the shoulders under the body. Karate chop the hands down with the pinky edge. And breathe here. And then release it all down. And rest your hands on your belly. Let's do that one more time. 3 is a charm in the back bend world typically. So arms down by your sides. Last time, bridge pose. So no pressure in your low back. If this is a discomfort for your low back at all, then just skip it or just do less. And scooch the flesh of the shoulders under the body. And karate chop the earth with your pinky edge of your hand. Lift the chest up. Can you think of lifting your low belly? Can you relax the sitting muscles a little bit? Like they can hold a little bit, but they're not like clenching for dear life. And then release everything down. And then just find a moment here to find the same position that we did in the beginning. Feet a little wider than your hips, knees knock in towards one another. And then another thing that we didn't do together, but that might be nice to do, is happy baby. Or did we do it together? I don't remember. Grab onto the outer edges of your feet. And you're reaching from the insides of your knees. So my arms are on the insides, my hands are on the outsides of my feet. And you can rock a little side to side. I think we did do this together actually. See if you can find length in your spine. So this is another pose where there's a tendency for the low back to lift way up off the earth. If that's happening, just like bend the knees more and maybe bring the soles of your feet together. Prioritize length in your spine. And if it is super nice and long on the mat, you can like stack your heels over your knees. And you can play around with like straightening one leg and bending one deeper. I've heard this called like the flying ninja. So just do what feels good. You should be pretty warm at this point. It's also very hot where I am personally, so I'm especially like bendy right now. All right, bring the knees in, and then let's take thread the needle. One of the last things that we'll do is cross the right ankle over the left thigh. Choose to stay here. You can flex that right foot, just gently press the right knee away from you. And if you feel plenty in your outer hip, then stay. If you want to feel more, hug the left knee in towards your chest. Move your right hand through the triangular space of your legs and interlace your hands behind your left leg. If your body shape permits, you can maybe press that right knee away from you with your left or your right arm. Keep the right foot flexed, please. You, if you brought the left knee in, just release it down, but keep your legs crossed, please. So you're going to keep that right foot hooked on the left knee, and you're just going to drop your legs towards the left. So you drop your legs towards the left, your right ankle is still crossed over the left knee. You bring your arms out to the sides. Try to really square the backs of your shoulders onto the earth. You're coming into a twist with like maybe a little bit of that outer hip still doing some stuff. You can gaze towards the right if that feels okay for your neck. And then bring it back to center. And we'll switch sides. So left ankle crosses over your right thigh, flex that foot. Honor that one side is different from the other, so don't jump into what you just did. You can just take it step by step and see what works. So you can gently press that left knee away from you and see if that's enough. If not, you'll hug the right knee in and interlace your hands behind the thigh. Again, trying to keep that spine long on the mat. Gently release the grip that you have if you had it. Keep the foot crossed on the right thigh. Bring your arms out to the sides. Just let your knees fall or legs fall to the right. So your right foot should be, or sorry, your left foot should be flat on the mat. And you should be on the outer right leg. You can gaze to the left if that feels okay for your neck. And then bring it back to center. Hug both knees into your chest. And we'll end it here. So extend the legs out. Let your feet flop open. Release your arms down by your sides, palms face up. And take your time to get all the fidgets out, to really find a position where you can just completely let go. Just not even thinking about the breath, letting that happen just on its own. And if it feels better for your low back to have the knees bent the way that they were in the beginning, then do that. Just find a position that's restful. And once you find that, take a long inhale through the nose and hold it at the top. And let it out your mouth. Shavasana. Just hold this for just a minute or two, and I'll guide you out of it. Begin to lengthen your breath. Bring movement back to the body, moving fingers and toes. Extend your arms up and back behind you, reach through the feet, full body stretch. And then hug your knees into your chest. Extend your right arm up and back behind you, rock to your right side. Just rest on your side for a moment. So using your right arm as a pillow, your left hand can rest on the floor in front of your chest. And press yourself up to a seat, whatever seat feels comfortable for you. And see if you can keep the eyes closed for another moment. And bring your hands in prayer at your heart. Bow your head as you lift your chest. And then lift lift your head and open your eyes. Thank you so much for practicing with me. Namaste.